Your take on Tate. Good morning.
Dreadful, despicable man.
Why do people tune into him? How does he get such support?
God only knows. But the guy is absolutely awful. As far as I'm concerned, he has no respect for humanity.
No.
We all come from a man and a woman. All of us. We're all born. We've come into this world. We all need our mothers when we're tiny little babies.
Mm-hmm.
We all need our fathers as well.
Probably all our lives, actually, at times. Yes, go on.
Well, indeed. So for him to be spouting, this absolute bile to young people who have mothers, and we all have our mothers, is diabolical. But the worst of it is those of us that know better, that we sit down silently and that we support passively.
I don't support him. All I've ever done is listen to some clips from one of my colleagues because I asked to hear some of his work. I have absolutely no truck with the fellow at all, Adam.
Yeah, I know. I heard you play that disgraceful clip of what he was spouting this morning, which is what made me call in. I'm absolutely appalled. It should be banned from the radio. The guys, it's horrible. And
we can ban him from the radio, but what of social media, Adam? Shouldn't they be doing more?
We can all keep saying they, but let's look at it. You're a great supporter of Trump, yeah? He has just released...
Partially. I said earlier today, not cutting off aid to Ukraine, but I'm not automatically anti-Trump. No, I'm not. I agree with you, yeah.
No, right. So you're a supporter of Trump. He has just released, right, what's his name? Tate from Romania or wherever it was.
No, he hasn't
and brought him...
Trump didn't hold him in Romania.
But he summoned him to America and threatened the Romanians.
No, but he wasn't jailed by Trump in Romania, Adam. Obviously, Donald Trump is guilty of many things, but he doesn't control the Romanian judicial system.
So how has he managed to extradite him to America then?
I don't know that he has extradited. It was Tate's decision to go, wasn't it?
No, he was held captive. It was the Americans Trump who put the pressure on to get him released.
My understanding is it's the United Kingdom that's seeking to extradite Trump now.
The fact is...
Yvette Cooper is trying to get him here. That's my understanding. That they were arrested in Romania 3 years ago for, as I recall, allegations of rape and I think money laundering. And there are a number of British women who have claimed to be their victims, which is why the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper is trying to extradite them, is my understanding.
Yeah, so she's trying to hold him to account. And we all should be trying to hold him to account rather than I agree with you,
but just to my point again, I don't run social media. I don't follow Tate at all. When you say we should all be doing it, what I don't know what I can do. I don't understand.
Well, what you can do is speak out against him. What Trump can do is speak out against him rather than support and just say, oh, no, it's freedom of speech. It's not freedom of speech, what he's saying. It's abhorrent. Okay. It's a disgrace.
Well, we're on the same page there. I've just been looking up. The Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, said he had no prior knowledge and was not notified whether the brothers would be headed to his state. Quotes, Florida is not a place where you are welcome with that type of conduct. So I think it rather came out of the blue that they suddenly left Romania. Adam, just to clarify there, thank you for your input.
I don't agree with Andrew Tate and a lot of the stuff he says, but I think a lot of the people calling that are of an older demographic and can't put themselves in the position of a lot of younger men, which is this sense of hopelessness. So, for example,
do you feel a degree of hopelessness, Simon?
I would 100% say I do. And one of the reasons I do is that I'm investigating my past and there's a lot of abuse that my mother received and the system never did anything. And I'm trying to follow up and get a sense of justice, for example, reporting it to the police, and I'm yet to get a crime reference number.
And I'm sure you don't tune into Tate suggesting that you should be abusive to women because you're trying to help your mother. So what is it in his message that you do get, that you do support or you listen to? Can you break that down for me?
It's that he gives this idea that life could be better if you empower yourself and that material wealth will bring happiness. And I do not agree or align with that philosophy, but I can understand, and I think we can all understand why we might find that appealing. That your life could magically be better if you listen to the words of this wise sage. And he's not that at all.
if you catch up with, say, 9 of your mates later today to have a coffee or to go to the pub or do whatever you want to do, how many of them would say, actually, I get a little bit of what this bloke Tate is saying? What would the percentage be, do you think, Simon?
I would say, based on my understanding, it would be more than 50%, maybe 70%. This doesn't necessarily mean they agree with abuse against women, but just that they can relate to some of what he says. For example, some people can relate to what other people say, but may not necessarily agree with everything.
So it's not necessarily the fact that I see anything to latch onto. I do think there's a massive disconnect in generations between what they think of Andrew Tate. Everyone that I speak to of a certain age only sees him as a sort of radical misogynist. And it's not necessarily that I disagree, because a lot of his views are horrible and they're just downright wrong.
Do you mind if I ask how old? You talk about generational gap. Can I ask, are you in your 20s or 30s?
So I'm 23 myself.
You're 23, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If I would say, do you feel disenfranchised, do you know what that means? Do you feel sort of left behind in a sense?
Not necessarily left behind. It's just almost, and I don't want to say unseen because that's wrong. It's just I'm in sort of a weird gap between generations where there has been a disconnect between what a man should be and what society thinks a man should be.
What should a man be, Isaac?
I think it depends. There's not one blanket statement for what a man should be for everyone. What I personally want and what resonated with me with what Andrew Tate has said was the aspect of being a man where you want to look after the people around you. You want to be strong and you want to be able to rely upon. And growing up, I didn't necessarily have a lot of strong role models. And that's in media as well as in my own life as well. And similar to the people around me.
It's this vindictive nature that men have, well, people have in general, but men specifically have been able to be vindictive. To me, I find that I interpret it as being rooted in incel culture again. Mm-hmm. I spoke to Sheila yesterday about it as well.
Okay. Yep.
And I'm not saying everyone's an incel, but I'm saying that people just don't recognize behaviors that are rooted in incel culture, and everyone
just explain to those. I have to be. I know what it is, but how do you define incel culture? Just so that we're on the same page, as it were.
It's this blamelessness that it's every woman is clearly against me. I am clearly a victim. That's it.
And that's why you can't. This is not you personally, but that's why they can't form a relationship, is what you're saying.
I mean, I will admit to this. I actually did have a lot of behaviours when I was younger that were rooted in this kind of thing that I'm talking about.
Well, tell me what that behaviour was. You wanted a relationship and you couldn't get one, is that right?
Yeah, I thought I was a victim. I thought that there was nothing wrong with me and that everything else was somebody else's fault. I was shamelessly blaming everybody else, and I could not accept the responsibilities or the fact that I'm in charge of my life, and if someone doesn't like me, it does not affect my perception of me. I just have to accept things.
What? Do you mind asking what age band you're? Are you in your 20s?
I'm 24. I'm married and I have a child now, so my perspective is much different. Right.
So I was about to ask, when did that go? Presumably when you met the woman who went on to be your wife.
Yeah, the love of my life. She really was
wonderful,
helpful to me because, I wasn't terrible, but when I met her,
how long ago was it that you felt you were becoming an incel, which of course is involuntary celibate, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, how long ago do you think you were an incel?
I mean, it must have been, I will admit I have a bit of PTSD, so I don't remember a whole lot, but maybe we would say 15, 16.
And lastly, what would you now, Harry, married with, I think you said a child, and congratulations, what would you say to your younger self now, Harry?
It's fine. It's absolutely fine.
It's fine.
You just need to accept that sometimes things suck, but that's okay.
What is it that he says that resonates with you?
So when I say resonates, it's important to sort of create that distinction of while I don't agree with the majority of what he says, I can fully understand as to why it speaks to someone in my age group. Okay. And the reason to that, and I'm not going to draw a comparative to the story that's broke today. In fact, it's the first time I've heard as to why we're talking about it. So you'll forgive me if I step on any toes in terms of the feelings.
Of course, no.
The reason that it resonates with me so much is that as a 26-year-old white man in these days, we're sort of being told that we were everything that's wrong, we are everything that's wrong. A few moments ago, I heard a call, I believe it's Simon, potentially, who mentioned, he sort of made a comment quickly of, all men have this, and then you quickly correct to all people, but men more normally men. And it's that sort of feeling within young men and how easy it is to speak to us with people like Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate, even someone like Donald Trump, who sort of gives off that macho, like, I'm going to do this, and when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, I'm going to follow through with it, and anyone who tells you otherwise, I'm not going to listen to you, or I'm going to go make my point more important, I'm going to stand up for myself, I'm going to... For 5-6 years, all a young white man has been told...
Sorry, Stuart, for the last few years, all white men are being told is what?
That we are the issue. Now, not in total, obviously not in total, but that...
Sorry, who's telling you that?
In terms of society these days, in terms of the message that gets put out from everyone, you look at why a lot of people talk about young women, why they talk that I speak to personally in terms of my demographic. When I speak to them about why they hate Trump, it's always just, he hates women. It's like,
but you know, I could be having this conversation with a 26-year-old man, also in Portsmouth or London, or a black man who's saying, I've got to tell you, society is absolutely geared against me as a 26-year-old black man.
And this is my point, Nate. This is my point.
Go on.
While I agree that there was a time in our society when that was the case, we've done everything we can to get there. Yes, there are shortcomings, there are failings. But if I was to say, and this is the thing why Andrew Tate speaks to a lot of people, is that if I was to say now I feel it's being turned on me, the recent sentencing guidelines, people reading into that without the full knowledge, without the full research, just reading the headline, they'll go, well, now it's being turned towards me. And the main message that we get back is, it's your turn now. And that's that.
So what do you mean it's your turn? What does that mean? It's your turn now. What does that mean, Stuart?
The fact that it's our time, the way it feels that it's our time now to have maybe not oppression is the wrong word for it, but that's sort of where everything that's wrong with society. We shouldn't get this. You look at DEI quotas.
Oh, I see. It's your turn in that fashion. I see. You're on the receiving end now.
Yeah, we are now the bottom of the pile. Instead of bringing us all to the median, where we're all the same, it's going, we're going to promote this, as we should do, but now we're going to positively discriminate. And positive discrimination is, in my opinion, a very fancy way of saying racist. In my opinion, it's saying we don't need you. Look at the RAF with the pilots. We don't want you. Therefore, we won't consider you. Therefore, we're going to discriminate against you in order to promote what should be promoted. But the point being, it should be promoted to the point of diversity across the board and equality across the board. But it isn't. That, I think, is why people my age and my demographic, not all of them, I won't generalise and speak for all, but that is why I personally can very much understand, and at times why it resonates. And I catch myself at times thinking I agree, but obviously when you read into it deeper and you understand more,
so let me ask you this.
Problems.
Do you think, lastly, Stuart, do you think life in the United Kingdom currently holds more for a 26-year-old black male, or indeed Muslim male, than it does for you as a white male in Portsmouth?
I think in certain positions, yes. I think if you were to go into a job interview now, I personally have failed a job interview, and I've gone with a person that I've gone through the training with, and I've gone through the build-up things with. Yeah. And we've said the same things, and I could very easily sit there and I can pull the card. And I think one of the biggest things that's against us is how, if I say something and someone says, oh, you're saying that because you're a white man and such, you're a racist, you're a misogynist, you're a bigot, you're this, that and the other, it's the automatic belief that they're right.
I work in a secondary school. I work with young boys who actually idolise him. And they speak quite openly about it. They say, oh, well, miss, we know that he's done bad things, but he's still very successful. And that, to me, is absolutely frightening, that we have got a younger generation of men coming up who think that it is acceptable to act the way Andrew Tate does.
How old are these boys when they say miss these boys?
They're 14, 15 years old.
What do you reply to that? What do you say back to them?
I have to be very careful with the narrative that I use.
Why?
Because just in school... so it is referred on, so I would refer it on to the head of year. And then we have had assemblies around it, because it was becoming quite a thing where boys were talking about Andrew Tate quite openly in school and goading the girls a little bit with it. They don't understand it. They need educating on it. And I just think that this...
I'm sure you're following the necessary protocols, but why do you not feel able to challenge the 14-year-old boy?
I do challenge. I do, yes, right. Yeah. And I explain
when you say,
to them...
listen, Johnny, whatever your name is, you know this is basically based on misogyny and an irrational hatred of women. What do they say then?
And that's when they turn around to me, oh, yes, we know he's done those bad things, but, we just think... what he's achieved and how successful he is. You know, he's a very good entrepreneur. So they're kind of sort of discrediting totally, you know, the misogynistic side of him.
So
because
this level of success allows almost any level of behaviour, is what we're hearing here.
And I'm just so frightened by it. I mean, the man's name actually makes my skin crawl. I'm appalled by him. And that's why I've never called him before, but just when I heard, I just felt that I had to say something, because I am scared for the next generation that are coming up thinking that this is okay.